DS9 Sisko is the only Star Trek captain to accomplish an Enterprise feat. Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Captain Benjamin Sisko low-key pulled off a Starship Enterprise feat no other Star Trek captain accomplished. For 7 seasons, Sisko was the commander of Deep Space Nine, the most strategically important space station in the Alpha Quadrant. Deep Space Nine was the guardian of the Bjorn wormhole, the gateway to the Gamma Quadrant, and Captain Sisko became one of Starfleet's most important leaders during the Dominion War. As a spin-off of Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine created its own iconography without the benefit of Star Trek's most famous starship, the USS Enterprise. DS9 was the first Star Trek project not reliant upon the Enterprise. Captain Sisko not only oversaw his own space station, but in Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 3, Ben finally got his own starship when the USS Defiant became Sisko's warship to battle the Dominion and other enemies. Still, the Starship Enterprise wasn't entirely absent from DS9, and Captain Sisko managed to come aboard the 2 most famous versions belonging to Captain James T. Kirk, William Shatner, and Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart. Captain Sisko came aboard Kirk and Picard's Enterprises in Star Trek DS9. Captain Benjamin Sisko is the only Star Trek captain to visit both Captain Kirk and Captain Picard's Starship Enterprises. In Star Trek Deep Space Nine series premiere, Emissary, then Commander Sisko was summoned to the USS Enterprise D so that Captain Picard could debrief him about his mission to bring Bajor into the United Federation of Planets. This was Sisko's one and only time setting foot on the Galaxy-class Enterprise D, and it was memorable for the hostility between Picard and Sisko. Captain Sisko came aboard Captain James T. Kirk's Constitution-class USS Enterprise in Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Trials and Tribulations. After time traveling to the 23rd century, Sisko, LT Commander Yajia Dax, Terry Farrell, Chief Miles O'Brien, Cole Meany, and Dr. Julian Bashir, Alexander Siddig, posed as members of Captain Kirk's crew. Sisko got to fulfill his lifelong dream by shaking Captain Kirk's hand. Even better, Kirk never knew Sisko saved his life from an exploding tribble. Worf missed the chance to visit Kirk's Enterprise on Star Trek DS9. Unfortunately, LT Commander Worf missed his chance to equal Captain Sisko's feat because he didn't come aboard Captain Kirk's USS Enterprise in Star Trek Deep Space Nine's Trials and Tribulations. As a Klingon, there would be no explanation for Worf boarding a 23rd century Federation starship. Instead, Worf and Constable Odo Rene Auberjonois remained aboard Deep Space Station K7. Amusingly, Worf wasn't recognizable as a Klingon to 23rd century Starfleet officers, but he's still an alien who would stick out like sore thumb on Kirk's Enterprise. Of course, Worf served on 2 Starship Enterprises. The Klingon was Captain Picard's chief of security on the USS Enterprise D and the USS Enterprise E. Star Trek Picard revealed that after Captain Picard was promoted to Admiral, Worf became the captain of the Enterprise. Unfortunately, the Sovereign-class USS Enterprise was lost under mysterious circumstances that Captain Worf insisted wasn't his fault. Worf was also in Star Trek Generations when Captain Kirk met Captain Picard, but the Klingon never met the legendary Captain Kirk in any circumstances. Star Trek has given us a long line of iconic captains who become the faces of space exploration, diplomacy, and leadership. From the pioneering Captain Kirk to the analytical Captain Picard, each one has embodied different values and strengths that have made them legendary. However, within this esteemed lineup, one captain stands apart: Benjamin Sisko of Deep Space Nine. While Sisko's tenure in Star Trek Deep Space Nine DS9 may seem overshadowed by the fame of Kirk's USS Enterprise and Picard's Enterprise D, Sisko achieved something no other Starfleet captain ever has. He became the captain of a USS Enterprise and fundamentally altered its fate. Sisko's unique relationship with the Enterprise in the expansive world of Star Trek. The Enterprise represents more than just a starship. It is an iconic symbol of Starfleet's ideals and the Federation's mission of peace, exploration, and justice. The legacy of the Enterprise begins with Captain Jonathan Archer and spans centuries of spacefaring history, from Kirk's NCC 1701 to Picard's NCC 1701D and beyond. However, despite this prestigious lineage, Benjamin Sisko's relationship with the Enterprise stands out as deeply personal and complex, setting him apart from the other captains. To fully understand Sisko's distinct accomplishment, we need to revisit a pivotal moment in his life. Before commanding Deep Space Nine, Sisko served aboard the USS Saratoga during the infamous Battle of Wolf 359, one of the most devastating conflicts in Federation history. The battle saw the Borg annihilate a fleet of Starfleet vessels, including the Saratoga, resulting in thousands of casualties, including Sisko's beloved wife, Jennifer. The architect of this tragedy? The Borg assimilated Captain Jean-Luc Picard, commandeering the USS Enterprise D as the unwilling voice of the Borg Locutus. For Sisko, the Enterprise represented not only Starfleet's highest ideals, but also the instrument of his deepest trauma. His introduction in DS9's pilot episode, Emissary, revealed Sisko's deep resentment toward Picard, who personally briefs him on his new assignment to DS9. This tension frames Sisko's journey as one of healing and redemption, setting up the unique dichotomy between Sisko and the idea of the Enterprise itself. The USS Defiant, Sisko's warship, while most other captains in Star Trek are defined by their command of an Enterprise, Sisko's signature ship was the USS Defiant, a small but heavily armed warship that contrasted with the exploratory mission of most Starfleet vessels. The Defiant, under Sisko's command, was designed specifically to combat the Borg threat and was initially stationed at DS9 to defend the station from threats such as the Dominion, the series' main antagonists. However, despite his association with the Defiant, it is during a lesser-known incident that Sisko becomes the only captain to accomplish a truly unique feat, saving an Enterprise. In the two-part DS9 episode, Homefront and Paradise Lost, Sisko temporarily takes command of the USS Enterprise, following a crisis involving a changeling infiltration of Earth. This moment is significant because it marks the only time in Star Trek history where a captain outside the official lineage of Enterprise commanders takes the helm of the iconic ship. In Paradise Lost, Sisko's actions not only help avert a military coup on Earth, but also reinforce the core values of the Federation during a time of internal strife. It's through this act that Sisko proves his capability of leading the Enterprise, a distinction that sets him apart from his peers like Kirk, Picard, and Archer, who were primarily associated with the vessel for their entire careers. A different kind of Captain Sisko's relationship with the Enterprise goes beyond just taking command during a crisis. In contrast to Kirk's swashbuckling heroism or Picard's diplomatic prowess, Sisko's leadership style was often rooted in pragmatism and moral complexity. The Dominion War arc of DS9 showcased a version of Starfleet rarely seen in Star Trek before, one willing to get its hands dirty to ensure survival. Sisko was the perfect captain for this darker tone. His decision-making, especially in episodes like In the Pale Moonlight, highlighted the lengths he was willing to go to protect the Federation, even at the cost of his personal ethics. This approach was starkly different from the somewhat idealistic command styles of Kirk or Picard, both of whom believed strongly in the unshakable moral compass of Starfleet. However, when given the chance to command the Enterprise, Sisko did not compromise on his principles. His stint as captain of the Enterprise, he demonstrated that despite his tendency to operate in the moral gray areas when it came to defending the Federation, he was also capable of embodying the ideals of exploration, diplomacy, and peace, ideals synonymous with the Enterprise's long-standing legacy. The legacy of Sisko and the Enterprise, though Deep Space Nine never revolved around the Enterprise the way other Star Trek series did, Sisko's brief command of the famed starship carved out a unique place for him in Federation history. He proved himself more than capable of